Yep. But anyhow, my knee hurts like the dickens and it swells up.
We're just waiting one moment for our two missing colleagues. We're just going to do some echoing before we get started. Hi there. Could whoever just called in identify themselves?
Sure, Deborah Bryant.
Oh, okay. I heard you, Deb. Who was the other one?
The other one was Blake from the River District.
Hi, Blake. Thank you.
Hey, Katie.
I'm sorry I had difficulties with the Housing Authority meeting.
Well, you're here now.
Yeah, we figured it out.
All right. It is now 6:32 on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, and I am calling this Common Council meeting of the Wausau City Council to order. One quick note before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next week, we will be opening for limited hours at City Hall. It will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'll send out a press release, but I wanted to make sure you all knew right away. So, all right, I guess we can stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we're ready for roll call. Are we doing verbal? Yep.
Yes.
Leslie will take roll call.
Peckham,
Here.
Martins,
Here.
Killian. Mr. Neal is previously excused. Wadinski. McElhaney. Here. Rasmussen.
Here.
Watson.
Here.
Herbst.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Ryan.
Here,
We do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Would you mind emailing the link to Alder Killian again? Thank you. He'll dial in now. The next thing on our agenda, proclamation. I do have one proclamation, and I want to recognize Sue Hogg, who is here with the advocating on behalf of the World Migratory Bird Day. So I'll read this and then I'll set this where you can grab it. Whereas migratory birds are some of the most beautiful and easily observed wildlife that share our communities, and whereas many citizens recognize and welcome migratory songbirds as symbolic harbingers of spring, and whereas these migrant species also play an important economic role in our community, controlling insect pests and generating millions in recreational dollars statewide, and whereas migratory birds and their habitats are declining throughout the Americas, facing a growing number of threats on their migration routes and in both their summer and winter homes, and whereas public awareness and concern are crucial components of migratory bird conservation, and whereas citizens enthusiastic about birds, informed about the threats they face, and empowered to help address those threats can directly contribute to maintaining healthy bird populations, and whereas since 1993, World Migratory Bird Day has become a primary vehicle for focusing public attention on the nearly 350 species that travel between nesting habitats in our communities and throughout North America and their wintering grounds in South and Central America, Mexico, the Caribbean, the southern U.S., and whereas hundreds of thousands of people will observe World Migratory Bird Day, gathering in town squares, community centers, schools, parks, nature centers, and wildlife refuges, and probably online, to learn about birds, take action to conserve them, and simply to have fun. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Katie Rosenberg, Mayor of the City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim Saturday, June 6th, 2020, as World Migratory Bird Day, and I urge all citizens to celebrate this observance with the Wausau Bird Club on a 6:30 a.m. bird walk at the Monk Botanical Gardens. Please support all efforts to protect and conserve migratory birds and their habitats in our community and the world at large.
Susan Haug from Ringgold, Wisconsin, head of the Wausau Bird Club. I just wanted to announce again to the council and the mayor that Wausau again it was awarded Bird City again through our renewal process. And I want to thank Pat Peckham, who I can't see in person here, but he's been very helpful with putting me in touch with city representatives that help me obtain information regarding things that the city has put in place to help the environment and to help, by helping the environment, you help birds in general. Also, Jamie Poley and all of her staff at the Park and Recs and Forestry Committee, they've been very helpful with me in my application also. Tom Loveland provided a lot of information about reforestation in the 9 Mile County Forest. That was a big part of our application this year. And also, we have two partners. Kathy Foley and her staff at Lee Yaki Woodson Art Museum are one of our partners in the application system. And also Darcy Howard and her staff at the Monk Botanical Gardens are also partners in the application process. And without them, and also without all the members of the Wausau Bird Club, we would not be able to keep attaining our status as a high flyer and as a bird city. And just a note on the thing for World Migratory Bird Day, there probably won't be hundreds of thousands of people gathering this year as in other years because of COVID. And also, this year, for the first time, the Monk Gardens is actually limiting our bird walk to 10 people, and you must register ahead of time. So if any of you are interested, you must go to their website and sign up ahead of time. And thanks to the City of Wausau for the help in the Bird City.
Thank you very much. Okay. The next on our agenda, public comment, pre-registered citizens for matters appearing on the agenda and other public comment. Do we have anyone registered?
We do not.
We do not. So I guess we will move on. This is actually a new item on the agenda that we haven't ever, I mean, I've been here for a month, but I haven't seen it on the agenda. Communications and recommendations from the mayor, strategic planning. So Leslie's going to help me run through this. You might have seen it added to your packet quickly this afternoon. I wanted to make sure that I gave you a little bit of a heads up, but it's pretty quick. It's going to be mostly me talking about it. So let's wait 1 second. And thank you for running this. Okay, so we can stay on this slide for a second. The City of Wausau has millions of plans. I'm sure you know that. I popped in the term plan into the city website search box and came up with 7,700 hits. We have master plans, action plans, capital plans, use plans, comprehensive plans, and project plans. So I guess you might be asking yourself, why am I asking this body to buy into another plan? But I do want to work with you to figure out where we want to be in the next 5 to 7 years and chart out a roadmap to get there. So what is Wausau's grand vision? What are the goals of our city council? Are the policies we're crafting in committees getting us to those goals? And are we bringing the community along? So most of all, I want to make sure that we're maximizing the investment of our city resources. We have a $92 million budget, and we can do a lot of things, but we can't do everything. So what should we be focusing on as a community? And obviously I have some ideas. I want to make sure that we are a resilient community in the face of difficult situations. I want to reevaluate how we get our work done. Do we have opportunities to innovate, find economies of scale? Do we have things that we can do better for less money? I sure hope so. So I want to help find those by exploring our options. And lastly, I want now more than ever to know how we're growing our economy with family supporting jobs, and how do we attract and retain job creators, and how do we grow our tax base. So, hey, that's you all. Just for a little heads up, I pulled these pictures of you for this slide from the city's shared drive. So if you're not in that picture, it's because you're not in the shared drive. So just think about getting a picture taken sometime soon. But I could decide on my own with the strategic planning. But I think it's more important than ever that we come together. And so I need your guidance here. I need the community's guidance. And I need to pull it all together and share it with goals and measurable criteria to guide our committee work. And what's most important for me as the day-to-day leader here at City Hall is that you focus on the right stuff. I want you to focus on good public policy. That way I can focus on the administrative procedures, and our city staff can focus on getting the job done well. We really do need to empower our staff to do well with those operations. I just lost my spot here. So you are all the what, as you can see on this slide. That's what we need here. You need to give the policy direction based on those goals that we hope to achieve. And you see here the city staff, that's the how. They'll focus on how to achieve your policy goals in a cost-effective and safe and proficient manner. Just kidding. So Wausau, just like every community, has challenges and opportunities. In the last year, in the last month, I've been listening to you talk about your priorities. I've heard transit, I've heard economic development, the environment. You've got people like me who care a lot about good processes. You have some historical baggage to work through. I do too. We have a ton to accomplish, and we need to prioritize. We need to ensure that we have the right people at the table. And so that's why I'm bringing this to you tonight. I want to enroll you in the process. I want your buy-in to move forward. What does this look like? Tonight, I would like to know if you see value in moving forward with a strategic plan for Wausau. I've been involved on the county side, and it really helped ensure that we were all rowing in the same direction on every committee. We asked ourselves, is this policy helping Marathon County to be the safest, healthiest, and most prosperous? If it wasn't, we didn't pursue it. So tonight, I'd like to hear from you if you think this is a good idea to move forward. Then in the next few weeks, I'll work with staff to get us going with the right process. I'll work with you and staff to develop purpose, like a general statement. What is our goal in all this? And then we'll present 5 to 6 outcomes that we'd like to achieve. Do we want to cut property taxes on single-family homes? Do we want to focus on safety, neighborhood by neighborhood? Do we want to ensure all families have access to affordable and high-quality childcare? Whatever they are, we'll tease those objectives out so we can laser focus on those in our committee work. After that, we'll convene an oversight group that consists of people who've done this before. I'm pretty fond of the former county administrator, Brad Carter, and former county board member, Ken Day, and they've been through this twice already, so you'll probably be hearing from them at some point. And there are some key moments where we'll be able to pull in members of our community who can guide some of those discussions, and obviously you are really important here. I'll be leaning heavily on our council president for leadership, but I want to include you too. The oversight group will come up with an actualized purpose based on what we've decided, and then present it back to this body. And then when it is the way you want it, I'll work with staff to get our professional strategic planner on board. So this will all be methodical, transparent, intended to guide our policy making. I'm really excited to get going, and I think we have a lot of opportunity to be agile as we go. But I would like directional consensus, so I would open it up. What do you need from me? Yes.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think that I've always been a fan of us all rowing in the same direction. I think that's the only way you get to your destination. I think that if we get bogged down in the minutia and infighting that happens when you don't have a clear vision, or you don't at least have some shared common goals or some shared common values, that it just is a really inefficient process. So that said, I will say 6 years ago we started a similar process with the Government Finance Officers Association. And we barely got off the ground with that process because it had committees and it had subcommittees and stakeholders and citizens, and it had these huge lofty goals. But we didn't finish, and we didn't get across the finish line because there were so many subgroups, it got to be like herding cats, and we just couldn't get it. It was so cumbersome, we couldn't get it done in time to prepare a decent budget. So I guess, is your vision that we would hire a consultant to keep it on track so that we can actually get from start to finish
Yeah,
quicker? Because
so-
when we tried to do it ourselves, it did not work.
Right, so I talked to former County Administrator Brad Karger, who's been through this twice, and he did it both ways. They hired a consultant at one point, and then apparently at some point, the consultant left the company, and so he ended up having to take a lot of it on himself. And he said he felt really good about the outcome, but it was a lot of extra work, so he recommended a consultant, but I would want to make sure that's the way this body wants to go.
Okay. I think to keep us on track, that may be helpful depending on the cost.
Right, and then there would be an RFP process, which you would all
Sure.
obviously be involved in.
Yeah, I think just so we don't get lost. We got lost in the weeds the first time.
Yeah.
We had some great ideas, and the first few meetings were really productive, and then it started to wane, and then it just stopped, and we never got done. So.
No,
it
we
would
got
be
to get this done.
It would be helpful.
Is there anyone else? Alder Killian.
Katie?
Oh,
Katie?
sure, I'll go with Alder Ryan and then Alder Killian.
I would just like to say that for a number of neighborhoods where there is older housing, like my home is 100 years old, that I think there's a number of people that like living in older neighborhoods and homes that are really solid. And so I guess I would like to somehow have some type of compromise that trying to keep some of that older housing stock that hopefully can be kept in better shape, and maybe we need to focus more on landlords that are not keeping up their homes. But just because you want to go forward and maybe have new housing, there may be a way to have new housing look like older stock in older neighborhoods, and that there still is affordable housing in a lot of neighborhoods that families can live in, and that should also be part of our goal.
Sure, I think Alder Ryan, you're suggesting some objectives that we could definitely talk about as we continue this process. So definitely we'll want to keep giving good feedback here. So thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say briefly that I think this is a very positive endeavor, and I think it's hard to get from goals to tactics without proper strategy bridging those two items. And I'm just hopeful too that it can be also a bottom-up process where the people's goals drive the strategy. And I know Wausau has done a lot of work in the past on acquisition, and I think much of that deals with the future, but we mustn't forget the present. So I'm hoping and hopeful that this will benefit the people and hopefully drive some of their goals forward as well. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Alder Killian. I think that's a really important point. In any strategic planning I've been a part of, the community has also been a part. I was able to give feedback on the county's plan before I was even on that body as a member of the community, so I anticipate doing the same thing here. Is there any other comment? Okay, cool. I will take this as a positive go forward, and I'll continue presenting you along the way. So thank you very much. Moving on, we have our consent agenda. I would take a motion to approve our consent agenda. Motion by McElhaney, second by Martins. Is there any discussion? Looks like we're ready to.
I would like to take off file number 19-1109, so since I see more discussion.
All right, we will pull out file number 191109 and vote on that separately. Is there any other discussion? Looks like we're ready to vote on the consent agenda minus 191109.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Wadinski,
Aye.
McElhaney, Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson, Herbst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, moving to file number 191109, the resolution authorizing the modification of fees to the City of Wausau fees and licenses schedule adopted pursuant to the Wausau Municipal Code, State Statute 3.40.010A. Do I have a motion? Motion by Wadinski, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion?
I'd like to have some discussion.
Alder Ryan, go ahead.
I did hear from a homeowner on the west side that has a private well, and I know my opponent, Patrick Bacher, had a private well on his property, and that it seems that the rates are going up quite a bit higher, and I guess I'm not exactly sure how to compare, if I'm comparing apples to oranges or whatever, but she had indicated to me that the permit fee is increasing from $15 to $100, which still may be over a 5-year period, but that the city had water sampling, and that I think you could go ahead and do that at the Marathon County Health Department for $28. But as part of, I don't know if it's part of these rules or fee increases, but that the previous $28 cost for water sampling will now require a well drilling company to oversee it and make sure that it is a sample from the well, so that there's potential costs of $160 to $300. So I do think there's a number of homeowners in our area that may have a private well in order to handle watering their yard, their flowers, and washing their cars. And so, and with the increase in the expected water and sewer rates coming, this just seems like it would be something helpful for our neighbors, and I'm just wondering if Eric can kind of explain more about the rate increase, but my neighbor is concerned that the rate increase is jumping 600%. And it gets to a point then, can she really afford this, or does she need to look at abandonment of the well? And then the DNR does require that being done by contractors as well, and maybe talking a few $1,000s.
Okay, I think Alder Rasmussen might have some information to share.
Thank you. I don't have information, but I have a feeling on this. Actually, I have an opinion on it because while a continued reduction in the fee or, staving off an increase in the fee would help a few neighbors, it won't help very many neighbors. And I think we have to consider with these permits and the fees to maintain them, these wells allow those houses to irrigate for free. The rest of us, when we start up a garden hose to water or irrigate the grass or wash cars or whatever, our water meter spins and we pay for that water. So this really is, at least in my opinion, one way to level the playing field a little bit so that you don't have a few residents that are, watering limitlessly for free, while the rest of us are paying for that by the gallon. So I am supportive of the rate increase. I think that to have a private well and to have that privilege year-round, it seems that it doesn't feel like as much of a hardship as if you were metering all of that water and paying that bill separately the other way.
Alder McElhaney.
Yeah, Eric, I have a question. My question is, with somebody that has a well, I don't know, I mean, explain to me the testing. I would think that's paramount, because we don't know how old this well is, if it was done when there was any type of, any type of rules to it, and I worry about people pumping up water and then letting it spill over into our sewer system and everything where we're cleaning it up. So would you explain, I mean, Alder Ryan was worried about the amount of testing costs, but I would assume that is for health purposes.
Right, it's typically a back T test that residents are required to take. These wells are in the same aquifer that our municipal wells are, and so really that's a safety factor for us. We want to make sure that nothing's being dumped in those wells, and that our aquifer, which we provide to the rest of the residents, that's well protected. We also want to make sure that there's no cross connections. Nobody's tying their house plumbing into the well to try to save water money, which also protects our water system as well. And so we monitor those, we manage those from Wausau Waterworks down at the water utility. And so and we have, I don't know the number that we have within the city, but people are able to keep them at this point in time. The permit fee it's $100 for 5 years, so it's $20 a year for them to have that. And they don't have to test every year, they just have to test every time their permit comes up for renewal, so.
Thank you. I'm supporting this. We in last term have talked, very much about our new wastewater treatment plant and our water plant and the needs for that, because we choose to live in a community, and that community, a big thing is public health and safety, which is water. So if we're asking our staff to do this kind of testing and to make sure that our water system that we're paying for is safe, then that's what needs to happen, because we just can't let something slip through. I think $20 a year is pretty darn cheap for anything. I pay more for my dogs. So, I mean, so I think that, we're talking about a small portion of people, and if they choose to do these wells, other communities are just not allowing the wells. So I think we need to, they need to be happy and say we can still use them. We just have to prove that we don't have bacteria going into our aquifer. Thank you.
Alder Watson.
Katie, I'd like to make another comment.
Okay, I'm going to have Alder Watson, and then I'll call on you, Alder Ryan.
All right, thank you.
So with the fee schedule that was in the packet, it didn't say there was a change to the private water well. So was there a change to that fee?
Not this year, I think it was actually approved the year prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then was there a change to the process of the testing every 5 years? Like when did that's always been in place, or?
Yeah, with our Wausau Municipal Code, under the Plumbing Code, Title 19 is what regulates that. And I think it's really just been over the past about 2.5 years that we've really tried to get a handle on how many private wells are out there and which ones need to be abandoned because they're just not to code. And so we've just recently started enforcing a lot of this. So that may be where she's finding that in the past she's been able to do things, but that's not necessarily how it was in the Wausau Municipal Code. So
That's not how, it's not like a change to the code?
no, we haven't changed that code,
To
at
the-
least since I've been here, so.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Alder Ryan.
Well, I just wanted to mention the homeowner that contacted me has had her well pass, and I did suggest that she should probably go ahead and have the water tested just to make sure that it is passing at this point. But there is cost associated with a private well. I do realize there could be point wells, but there could be drilled wells where they could be potentially spending a few $1,000s to have that. And then since they do have a pump that brings the water to the surface, they are they are incurring electricity costs. But I guess the other option is if she decides to abandon, there happens to be, I believe, a $50 permit to abandon, and then as well, the DNR is going to require a commercial contractor to actually do that, which could be thousands of dollars. So I think this is something affordable that homeowners with larger yards may have, and that this is a way of being able to maintain their property and water their flowers, and especially if it is some seniors on a limited budget. So I guess I am concerned about the water safety if the city is in the same aquifer, but I think we're talking about private wells that are being used for yards. It is not being used as drinking water. So I will oppose the increase in fees. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? I think we're ready to vote. Thank you.
McElhaney? Wadinski?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
No.
Motion passes 9-1.
All right, thank you. Moving on to file number 200503, Mayor's Appointments. You'll see in your packet updated today, I have 5 appointees to the Safe Elections Task Force. I would take a motion to accept. Motion by McElhaney. Second by Herbst. Is there any discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Ryan?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Wadinski?
Aye.
McElhaney? Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to file number 920623, the resolution approving renewal of parking lot lease with Colonial Property 4 LLC, Grant and 3rd Streets. Do I have a motion? Motion by Rasmussen. Second by Martins. Is there any discussion? All right, I think we're ready to vote.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
No.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Wadinski?
Aye.
McElhaney? Motion passes 9-1.
Thank you very much. Moving on to file number 191109. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving reallocation of $25,000 budgeted for Brockmeyer Park parking lot to JoJo's Jungle Playground in Brockmeyer Park. Do I have a motion? Motion by Watson,
Second.
second by Larson. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
All right, Alder Peckham.
I think this is an excellent thing that we are about to do, I hope. And I think as we do it, we should congratulate the Park Department and Public Works for their inventiveness in spending as little as they did on the parking provisions out there. They had our authority to spend a lot more. They found a way to do it cheaper. It turned out that that left some money available for this worthy project. So congratulations to them.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd echo Alder Peckham's comments. I think this is very positive, and the special park in committee, the resolution had been amended to attach a transportation facilitation program to and from the park. Now, I believe that's something the committee is going to perhaps direct to the appropriate committee, perhaps transit, but I just wanted to confirm that, as I think getting families and children there and back is also critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder McElhaney.
To answer Alder Killian's question, yes, it was Chair Peckham emailed me, Jamie Polly, and Greg Seibert today, and we've had emails back and forth seeing what something like this would look like. Unfortunately, I mean, like I told Ms. Polly, I would love to do this tomorrow, but right now our transit is so in a upheaval with COVID-19. We are only in our regular bus routes allowing 10 people per bus. If there's more than 10, we have to get another bus. So we are in, uncharted territories already. We certainly can look at that. We discussed, reservation, a paratransit or whatever, but assuredly, Alder Killian, we will be looking at that. I just want to tamp down that, somebody asked, can we have this by the time it opens in June? And that's not going to happen. We just need to get all the ideas, have our transit director look through prices and what it's going to cost, how it's going to affect the budget. Our transit budget is very, very shoestring. We are lucky to get COVID CARES Act money. That's what's helping us get through this pandemic, with keeping them going. So, we are looking into it. We have it on our radar. I asked Greg Soiver to please put it on for our June meeting. So does that answer your questions, Mr. Killian?
Thank you, Alder McElhaney. To some degree, that does, and I just want to make sure that this does ultimately occur, because I certainly understand the challenge that we're in with a pandemic, but I also understand that the city of Wausau has spent millions and tens of millions on decadence and elective luxury, so I am not comfortable cutting funding to help children with special needs access a park through public transportation. So as long as this happens, I will be comfortable, but we've spent much money on things that did not serve the community in such a profound way. So I just hope this does not fall along the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Killian. Alder Peckham.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what our council president just said, that it is going to be placed on the Transit Commission agenda for our next meeting. There are, the difficulties. The first thing that we talked about, we had a little email back and forth, is the COVID situation and the fact that they only have on a city bus, there's only 2 stations for wheelchairs, and we are imagining that some of the transportation needs would be youngsters in wheelchairs, so there's only 2 of them on a bus, and you can only use one of them as with the current social distancing guidelines. And I can assure everyone that this is going to be examined, and if we look at it this year and say, boy, we wish we had money, but we don't, and so we can't do it, then we can, make sure that we get that in the budget for next year. But we are going to have a thorough discussion of it and find out if it's something that we can get creative with. I think when we think about stuff like this, we automatically start thinking about regular routes and schedules and all that stuff, and maybe we could serve the purpose for kind of a trial season by offering the service a couple of times a week later in the summer. So we're going to see what we can pull off. We think it's a worthy idea, and we will try to make it happen.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? All right.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Wodinski?
Aye.
McElhaney?
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you very much. We are now on file number 200505. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving the Community Development Block Grant Program Action Plan, adding coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security, CARES Act funding, and the reprogramming homeowner rehabilitation revolving loan funds into CARES initiatives. Do I have a motion? Motion by Watson,
I would second.
second by Peckham. All right, ready for discussion. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I know a couple of us are concerned about the item in the allocation aligned with administration. We talked about it in finance, and I want to make sure that we have a little more of a discussion about it tonight here with all of us here. In the Finance Committee, when we talked about it, Tammy explained to us that there is a cost to administer the program. There's a cost to advertise the program, to process the applications. And doing that larger effort in connection with McDevco, there was intent that they would share that administration money between them. A couple of us, though, still have concerns about allocating $70,000 to administration for this program, because it is less of that funding that we're getting from the federal level to flow out into the community to address the needs of businesses that have been particularly hard hit. Now, I support the rent assistance plan that we got from North Central Community Action. That's awesome. I also support the proposal from McDevco, which will allow us to essentially reach out to 70 small businesses. But is there a way that we could reduce the amount of the allocation for administration? And I say that only because in the 2020 budget, the people that are doing this work for us are already budgeted for, and they're already getting paid to do that same type of work. So even though HUD allows you to keep up to 20% for administration, we've already covered our overhead for 2020. And is there a way, and I'm not normally the member who will shift the block grant committee's recommendations on the council floor, but we did have just some basic discussion about it in finance. And I guess I would like to hear from the rest of my peers before we just continue, if there's a way for us to maybe pare some of that money down and flow it into the two programs that we're funding.
Sure. I have Tammy on the line. Maybe she could just give a little bit of background on what that funding and that administration fee actually looks like. Tammy, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I'd be happy to explain this a little bit more.
Sure.
First of all, you have to look at this. This isn't a 2020 admin cost. With federal funds, we're not going to be done with this program by the end of the year. We might have the loans out or the grants out, but there's a lot of monitoring that has to happen for the next 2 years. So this money actually has to fund us for 2 years of the monitoring, the reporting to HUD, the filling out the paperwork. And also with McDevco, how we've funded them before is they would take a servicing fee off of all the loan repayments that they received on a monthly basis. It's a small percentage, like 3%, but with these being now grants or forgivable loans, there's going to be no loan repayments back. So we have to pay them for the work that they're doing. They got to keep their rent paid too. They have to pay their employees. So it's not a 2020 budget per se, it is a whole program year. And with community development, we have to budget, or we charge each program for our hours spent. So it's not just we get to get a paycheck for whatever work we do. We have to say, okay, I worked in this program for an hour and a half today, I charge that pot. So our timesheets have 12 different pots of money, if you want to say, of how we pay ourselves. So with this new program, yes, it is going to be extra work. It's got to come out of somewhere. Yes, there's funding in the 2020 block grant world of admin, but again, these programs just don't last for a year and then disappear. they usually go on for at least 3 years of reporting. Does that help at all?
It does. That's the information that I think we need to talk ourselves through a little bit, that it really is an allocation in 1 year, that maybe the impact crosses over 2 or 3 budget years. I think that's important to know. But yeah, I think that as a group, we can talk through that. And I think we got to that point in the finance committee that we did approve the item based on your comments in finance, but, 7 of us didn't get to hear that. So I wanted to make sure that we talk through why that's happening. I know I've already been asked today by the media about that administration line item, and make sure that we understand it first and that we talk it through before we make that choice. So thanks, Tammy.
I just want to let you know, I'm going to call on Alder Killian, Alder Peckham, and then Alder Larson. So Alder Killian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Stratz, for that information. I think, there are various facets of this that may be useful to discuss. And let's start with one I think should likely be the least controversial among my colleagues, and that is these grants and loans, if McDevco is controlling and overseeing that process, it is my understanding it'll be first come, first served, which, as Ms. Stratz told me, is not uncommon. However, what I do find completely unacceptable, frankly, is that in the packet it states that McDevco already has a list of roughly 70 businesses that they've been in contact with, and they will contact these businesses when funding is in hand. Now, if it's going to be first come, first served, and there's already an existing list of businesses, my concern, and I think it's a well-founded one, is that those who are not in that loop, network, or on the list may not, they may fall through the cracks on this. And what I'd like to see is, and I'm not suggesting any impropriety here, what I am suggesting is that the optics on this, to put it softly, are exceptionally poor. That by having first come, first served with an existing list that will be contacted, it makes it look unfair, loaded, and rigged. Now, that may not be the case, but that is the optics, and I have received concerns on that from members of the community. So if McDevco is going to oversee these funds and it's going to be first come, first served, then I would suggest a process that is fair, where the perception does not look like winners and losers are being chosen, and that would be a lottery system. And I understand that the con of doing that may be that there is a delay in initial funding, but for many businesses that may be left out, a delay is certainly preferable to not getting anything at all, or to not receiving any assistance. So that is something I think I'd like to put at the forefront, that it's really not even a tenable position to say that first come, first served with a pre-existing list, that there's any semblance of fairness there. So I'd like to make a motion to amend it at a later time after there's been some discussion, and it would be on that component. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Killian. I will tell you, I talked to Vicki at McDevco, and it is possible that we do a lottery. I know that WEDC started with a first come, first served model for their COVID relief, and now they have moved to a lottery. So it's possible. It's a little bit, it's different than what we've done before, but it's possible. Alder Peckham.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to swing back a little bit on the matter of the 70,000 for administration, and Tammy will tell you that I have challenged that percentage previous grants in the past, and she always manages to explain it to my entire satisfaction. And I think that the money that the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee does a lot to administration is justifiable. One of the things that factored in, that I don't think we need to feel bad about that 70,000, was that we actually, with the amount of money we had and the amount of applications, the amount, the total applied for, we had more money than the two applicants had asked for. And so we actually went back and basically gave them more. But my understanding is that there's a limitation also on, I expressed surprise that McDevco didn't ask for even more. But the problem is getting the money and administering it, getting it, having time to get it out to everybody in a fair and equitable manner. All that stuff takes time too. So that's as much, my understanding is, that's as much money as they felt that they could handle. So that was just my 2 cents to throw it in.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to what you had said at the beginning of the meeting about thinking about bold and new ideas and stuff and how looking for ways to save money. And my thoughts on the whole thing is, why are we not doing this in-house? And saving the $70,000. I believe I received the email today that we just hired a new small business specialist, and it is my humble opinion that we save the $70,000 and do this in-house, and this would be a good way for Sean to get his feet wet and helping out with the small businesses in the community.
Tammy, do you have any, I know that you have experience with loans. I don't know about administering loans like this.
Thank you. We've been in partnership with McDevco for probably 25 years. The reason being is they can do this streamlined. They have the expertise. They've been doing our block grant loans for, many, many years with all the HUD regulations, and they understand them. Could we do it in-house? Possibly. But there's only 2 of us in our department that does the block grant stuff. Sean, who just got hired, yes, he's working on the economic development side, but he isn't hired to work on our side. It gets a little complicated. Could we do it in-house? Yeah, but I think we'd have to hire at least 2 more people to do what McDevco does. And we have a great partnership. They understand the rules, and quite honestly, it works. And I know many communities that receive the block grant funds that do it in-house, and when we talk about how we handle it, they actually asked how they could get McDevco's number, because it's a lot of work and it's very cumbersome.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'm okay with partnering with McDevco. I mean, obviously, they have the skill set, they've got the connections, they've got a conduit where they can get the money to where it's needed, probably faster than us trying to create a process from scratch. But the idea of a lottery introduces, at least my feeling on the public-facing end, a lottery process maybe introduces an element of luck instead of merit. And my question would be, is within McDevco's allocation process, do they have the ability to score and rank the applications? I think that would get us where we wanted to go, without awarding them on a, lottery or drawing type basis where you may get something, you may get nothing. Is there a way that based on a scoring and ranking matrix, they can identify, and I get that these are small grants and small loans, but where that financial impact has hit these applicants and, catch those that maybe have the greatest need? Or is this program or are these individual loans too small for that?
I did ask Vicki from McDevco to join us. I think she could answer that question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. You guys have really some great questions out there. We have been working for the last 2 months to set up checkoff sheets, just addressing what you've talked about for how do we validate people are actually needing it. We have a duplication of affidavit service out there, so they cannot duplicate. We've written policies and procedures. We know HUD reporting. We've got our advertising and marketing in line here for TV commercials, Facebook. Both the mayor and I will be doing a training session if this passes so people will have an equal platform. I have built our website so that they can go online. They also can come into McDevco. We have done COVID-19 security on our front entrance here. This will be a 2.5 year process for us for reporting on here. I want to address the 70 people in our portfolio that we have. McDevco is a resource to all of Marathon County, along with the city of Wausau. And we have I personally have talked to 150 businesses from Wausau and outside of Wausau. I have talked with Blake to get their email list so that we have the city of Wausau email list out there. We are not looking at prioritizing something that we have out there or not. They have to meet the checkoff requirements for this. And we will launch this with the city appropriately. And then after it's launched to all, I will unlock that section of our website out there. We can do lottery if that's what the council wants, we can do that. There'll be 2.5 of us or possibly 3 of us working on this project to get it up and running and make sure that we check them correctly. So nobody can say that this was done incorrectly, because we value our partnership very much with the city of Wausau and doing it correctly. Questions for me, please?
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've got some comments and questions. Likely, I try to be brief often, but this may not be possible at this moment on this topic. So, you know, it wasn't my intention to get into some of the historical operations of McDevco and so forth, but I guess that door was opened, and this is a substantial amount of money. So for some of my colleagues who aren't as familiar with McDevco and for the community, and this is just to perhaps add on to some of the information you're providing, ma'am, but I'd like to look at, in the past, for the sake of transparency, we've often heard, I mean, whether it's to support mall deals or other economic ventures locally, we've often heard that there are multiple entities supporting those endeavors. For example, the Wausau Chamber of Commerce. For example, McDevco. For example, Central Wausau Progress. Now, you mentioned your office, and I think several years ago, the McDevco office had been moved, but that's something I'd like to talk about, because given your nonprofit status and so forth, you know, those tax returns are publicly available. And this was brought up several years ago, and there has been openly quite a few concerns and questions about certain facets of dynamics with McDevco. Now, I pulled a year before that office moved, and I got that right in front of me. Let's just take 2012. Now, on that form, it lists the address as P.O. Box 6190 and the telephone number as 715-845-6231. Okay, now let's take a look at the Chamber's 2012 tax return, and it also lists the same P.O. Box 6190 and the same telephone number, 715-845-6231. So what I'm trying to point out here is certain dynamics between the entities that have often been involved in these local endeavors. Another one I'd like to bring up is Central Wausau Progress. And if you look at the Chamber's tax return, even though that's often talked about as a very distinct entity, it listed as 100% owned by the Wausau Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so these dynamics I feel that the community should be aware of, and so should some of my colleagues. And on the service side, that's something we've talked about. If you look at like a McDevco tax return, for example, let's take 2012. Let's see here, where it lists independent contractors and those receiving the most, McDevco lists the Wausau Chamber of Commerce receiving $386,232 that year. Now, Ms. Stratz also brought up the relationship, underwriting services for HUD loans and so forth. I've got one of those contracts in front of me right there. This particular one happens to be 2013. Now, if you look at the signature on that contract for McDevco, that the CEO that signs for McDevco coincidentally was also the president of the Chamber of Commerce that year. So I think a larger conversation in the future about the dynamics and relationships between these entities would be warranted for the sake of transparency, but it does not look like McDevco's had a shortage of public funding in the past. Just one more. I've got the floor for now. Thank you. I'll be finished up in a minute. So yes, I think whether it happens now or later, entertaining some other options would be good, but none of the processes that's been listed tonight as alternatives would remedy the appearance that a pre-existing list with a first come, first served model looks anything resembling fair. So that will not take care of my concern on that. And many of my colleagues here, they had, they were running for office and at times in office, they stated that they would stand up for workers and working families and to make sure small businesses and so forth were safeguarded. And I would ask them tonight that they stand by their words with their actions, because this is quite troubling. And I think that in years past, with community concerns about some of the dynamics I mentioned, some council members in former terms, they may have been a little timid about offending McDevco and the Chamber of Commerce. I do not share that apprehension tonight, so I'd like to make this fair, and I think a lottery would be the only way to remedy that if McDevco is to oversee this. Thank you.
Vicky.
Thank you. As an FYI, in 2015, because there was so much crossover, I didn't come on board until 2015, having gone through the records. McDevco is a 501c3, the chamber is a 501c6. There was too much muddying of the water. Those are past things we have broken from. We will collaborate with them on projects as we need to. We have our own board. We have our own system. If you look forward from 2015 to 2020, we are our own entity. We are reestablishing what we were developed for 43 years ago, along with a strategic plan that is gap financing, entrepreneur development, a small business owner for educating them. We've run this last year over 200 classes at no charge for them. We work with the municipalities for economic development and workforce. We are not the chamber, and there was a muddying of the waters, as you say, back then, but we have worked extremely hard to move forward. And to be the corporation that our mission statement set us up to be. And that's how we move forward in the face of McDevco, is with responsibility to our mission, our members, our board, and the community.
Thank you. I think this also might be an opportunity. Having previously served on the county board, McDevco would come in and give presentations about what you do during the educational meetings. So I think it would be in order maybe for you to come in and give a presentation about what you do, expectations, criteria, all of that. I know that you're into it. So I think that would be great, and we'll work on getting that scheduled so that everybody kind of has an understanding, and we can definitely hash through some of those questions Elder Killian has and all of that. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the questions. I do. Thank you.
Right. Alder Watson.
Katie,
Oh.
I have
Thank you for
comments
your
too.
responses.
I'm sorry, Tammy, is that you? No, okay. I'm going to call
No,
Alder.
it's Deb.
Okay.
I had comments too.
Okay, I have Alder Watson, Alder Rasmussen, and then Alder Ryan.
So back
right.
to the question about the matrix or rubric to like evaluate the applicants, there isn't really one, it's just a checklist. Like you either qualify or you don't. It's not really based on need.
There are 50 points that you can get. So it's a sliding scale. Every question has a different amount. So it's not yes or no. People have to fill out their application completely. And then it is a sliding scale on there. If they duplicate their services and they receive, EIDL funds and PPP, we feel that this funding is for people who have received nothing, that have been harmed by having to shut their doors and or limit their services. So I think that we're partnering well with what the city is looking for, being able to do with these funds, and give the hand up to the ones that they're really hurting.
So then it wouldn't really be first come, first served. It would be based on the score that they receive on their application.
Correct. Or we can do the lottery. We can do either. We're here as your administrator.
Okay.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I guess I'm more of a fan of need and merit versus luck. So lottery does not appeal to me. I would like some fact-based reason for why people get money and how. That said, I think that that's what Vicki has going, and I think hearing her talk about the checklist being a pre-qualification process is kind of getting to where I want to go, because realistically, even if you are first come, first serve, if you're going to take the first 50 qualified applicants means that they've passed that pre-screen and that the impact is already evident, and that's what I was looking for. So I'm good with that. I also would like to recognize that if we want to see business growth, commercial growth economically on a regional level, it behooves us to have robust partnerships with McDevco, the city, the county, the chamber, Central Wausau Progress, and the WEDC. None of those organizations should be viewed negatively. They shouldn't be viewed negatively by the public, and they should not be viewed negatively by any of us. Those are our partners. And when we try to grow this community and create jobs for our residents, we need all of those people in our conversation. And so we should not position any of them in a negative light, because that's our partner base to grow this area. So I think what Vicki has in place is sufficient. It satisfied my curiosity as far as qualifying people that have been hit hard, that have a real demonstrable impact, and then get them some help. So I'll vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Ryan.
I have some questions. My concern is that it seems that the citizen advisory gave more based on a limited number of people that did apply for it. And we as a council can make other decisions. We do not necessarily have to follow the citizens advisory guidelines. And based on how strong the need is for businesses, I do think that we as a council can look at giving more on grants, I think, and less on larger loans, so that we could help the smaller businesses with the grant, which is not a lengthy or long-term loan to be followed. It's more of filling it out, issuing the checks, and helping these businesses. So I do hope that we can maybe reconsider what the advisory board allocation was, so there could be additional funds for the small business grants. If McDevco cannot accommodate a larger amount of business grants of the $1,500, is that something that community development can do instead? And then I also am concerned that there is the $100,000 in community development homeowner rehab funds that are available now as cash and could be used. And for those smaller businesses needing the 1,500 grant, should we potentially allocate, say, 50,000 or 75,000 of the cash available now to go to the small business loans and 25 per se for the rent assistance for residents that will be through the North Central Community Action Program?
Okay.
A number of these small businesses need the cash now, and I'm hoping we are targeting the smaller businesses. Thank you.
Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just lower my hand here. Yes, I just wanted to respond to some of the comments since I made some statements earlier, and there was no light, whether negative or positive, that anything was shed in. There were facts that were stated, and I think the reason many of us were elected to be on this body in this last round was as reform candidates. And so part of that is making sure that the public gets the full set of facts and that there is full transparency. So I just wanted to correct that statement earlier, that there was nothing was subjective there. I read from tax returns, so I don't think that was projecting any negativity on a partner. And one thing that does concern me, and Alder Rasmussen mentioned them, are the KPIs of some of our local economics, and one of them over the years, as our partners have been doing some of these things and spending lots of public money, has been things like a declining local population, as well as a declining household medium income. So I don't think we as a body should shy away from facts and statistics, but several of us were elected as reform candidates, and we are here to try to facilitate positive change. So while there have been some positive things in the past, the future does not always have to be parallel, and there can be some improvement. Thank you.
Alder Watson.
So Vicki, can you just summarize for me briefly, like the process exactly? Because I know you said you guys are going to put out advertisements on Facebook and newspapers, all that stuff, and then you're going to open, once you get to a certain day, that part of your website so they can apply, right? And then people will reply, and they have this application process they go through where they get a sort of score on a sliding scale for questions, right? Now, would you then select those people if they meet the threshold immediately? Or are you going to have a time when the application closes and then select?
Well, we were going to choose them immediately if we did the first come, first serve. If you want us to do a lottery, then we will set a beginning and ending date. And then the ones that have met all the qualifications, we'll hand them off to you if you want to choose who they are and pick them and do that. And we don't have any problem doing 74 $1,500 grants or 100 $1,500 grants. That's up to the city of Wausau to decide what they'd like us to do.
So I like the idea of having like a start end date, but not the lottery idea, because it seems to me that through the application process, you can evaluate need. So then after this pool is accepted, wouldn't you be able to then sort them and rank them and then the first, not the first, but the top 70? Yeah, then it wouldn't be a lottery, it would be based on need.
Right, yes. That's absolutely, we want to process them as quickly as possible. We know that the need is out there, and it's better for us to, as they come in, process them through than when sitting with 70 or 100 of them over here.
Okay. Is there any, Alder Ryan?
I would just like to say that there was in the proposal for McDevco of handling the $1,500 grants, which is basically the application, finding that they qualify or not, and writing them a check. There's not this ongoing loan of up to $20,000. So I would encourage our council members to look at, with this pandemic and the need is so great, that I guess I would like to see more of the $1,500 grants be available out there instead of a few of the $20,000. We can help more businesses, and especially small businesses that are in need and on the verge of going broke by going for the $1,500 grants. But it's up to the council to decide on that.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that the citizen panel has the allocation right. I don't know that we should massage it here on the floor, only because the proposal that we got from North Central Community Action that assists rent and utility assistance can assist 48 families. And we can't forget also that families have been hard hit as well. We know that businesses have been, but families too. And families who haven't been working may desperately need that assistance. So I think the way that they've got the requests funded, they funded them in full and a little bit beyond what the entities asked for. I think the allocations are right, and I think that we are positioned the way we've got it set up to get aid into the hands of people who need it expeditiously. I think if we bottleneck the process too much, we can't get the help that people need out quick enough. And I think this is a balance of that. So I think we should support it just the way the citizen panel brought it forward.
All right, I don't see any other discussion. Are we ready to vote?
I would like to make one more comment.
All right,
If you don't
Alder
mind.
Ryan.
Back over 10 years ago, there was a citizen advisory that had asked to take away funding from North Central Community Action in its entirety, so to fund a neighborhood officer. It ended up, the council ended up reversing that and included the United Way as part of their speakers. I do think because there was only 2 agencies that did apply, they gave them additional funding beyond what they asked for. And with the need we're hearing from McDevco, there's a lot more need on the small businesses needing these grants. So we have the opportunity and can and are permitted to make changes in what the Citizen Advisory Committee had made. And I'm recommending that we do keep North Central Cap to what they originally asked for, and to go ahead and give those additional funds then to McDevco for small business grants. Thank you.
Is this a motion?
Yes.
All right. Can you please restate your motion for the clerk and me?
The allocation of the funds was increased by the Citizen Advisory because the North Central Community Action had asked for less funds. I'm not sure what that number is, but we should allocate them for the original number they asked for. And to go ahead and fund McDevco for the remaining balance.
Do we know what that number is? Oh, okay.
Can we bring up the chairman of the citizen panel? He's with us
Sure,
tonight.
yes. We have our chair, Bruce Bulgan. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
We're just going to look up the information.
The division, I think, was, it was Tammy's decision to take the 100,000 out of homeowner rehab. And then the committee decided to split that 75-25 between McDevco and North Central Housing.
Okay. Because we did also consider it in finance as well, and questioned specifically whether or not that reallocation would harm the housing rehab fund, and it will not. Based on their application flow and the fact that we're halfway through the year, we did not expect a hardship in that fund from repurposing that money. So, but anything you want to offer on behalf of the Citizens Committee though, Bruce, and as far as the allocations and the decision-making process that you've come through?
I think Tammy's done a great job bringing this together so quickly, and we've worked with Vicki and Diane before, and their programs are just terrific. And we've never had any problems with those at all. And we look forward to working with them in the future.
Thank you. I guess I have an amendment motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Before we do that, back a while ago,
Yeah.
Mr. Killian had made a motion, and there was never a second that was made, but I don't know if.
Oh, he made a motion?
Yes, he said he made a motion, and that had to do with the lottery system.
Okay, so I guess we've got a couple motions here, but,
Pardon me, I was going to make a motion at a future time, but had not intended to make any motion at the time. I'm sorry for any confusion.
okay. So do I have a second for Alder Ryan's motion? I was looking back in the minutes, I'm not seeing the, oh,
I can see it in the minutes.
thank you.
It says that North Central Community Action Program applied for $58,000,
yes,
not 70. Is that what the number you were looking for?
yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so to push him back to 58,000 instead of 70 is, do I have a second? Anyone with a second? I don't know if I have to ask 3 times according to parliamentary procedure, but I don't. Okay, that amendment fails due to lack of a second. Is there any other discussion? Tammy, I saw that you wanted to speak earlier.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on some of the questions that were risen about the grants for McDevco. If we would give additional grants, what that would do. There's still the reporting part of it. Unfortunately, with HUD, there's always reporting. It doesn't matter if you give $1 or if you give $100,000. So yes, we could give more as grants, but we still have to report those jobs. And the grant part was just to help small businesses with a small amount so that they didn't have to report as long, the 2 years. They just have to report for a year, the 6 months and a year versus the 2 years. And we wanted to have the opportunity that if they needed additional items to get back on their feet, there was an opportunity to receive additional funds. So yes, we could give more grants, but still the reporting is there no matter if we give 70 or 500, we still have to report all those jobs.
Thank you.
And Deb had mentioned about with the 100,000 of the reprogramming funds, we did give, like Bruce said, 75,000 of that is going to McDevco, and 25 was allocated for North Central so that they could each get a small allocation to get the money sooner than us waiting for HUD to come down the pike. So if that helps answer some more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Is there any other discussion, or are we ready to vote on the resolution? All right, let's do this thing.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
No.
Wadinski,
Aye.
McElhaney. Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Herbst. Larson,
No?
Ryan,
Aye.
motion passes 8-2.
Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to file number 200509. It's an ordinance creating a temporary ordinance, Chapter 5.90, relaxing certain code requirements during the COVID-19 pandemic and recovery for a period expiring on October 31st, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. to provide for COVID-19 temporary outdoor restaurant seating areas, authorize city staff to review and approval of temporary outdoor seating areas and temporary expansion of licensed premises for restaurants, temporarily amending section 9.04.025, consumption or possession of intoxicants on streets, and temporarily amending special events policies and procedures. I have a motion by Rasmussen. Do I have a second? Second by Watson. Is there any discussion? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
I do.
All right, I'm going to start in the chamber, and then I'll move to you, Alder McElhaney.
Okay.
Even though I was here, Public Health and Safety, something came up, and I don't see it in the packet, so I just want to make it publicly clear, we are not closing any streets, are we? I mean, beside the pedestrian mall, we were wondering about bus routes. That was what they cross, they don't go up Third, like Third Street, the 300 or 400 block, but we're not closing any crossing streets, correct?
There's no crossing streets that would be closed. It'd be the 300 block of Third Street, the 400 block of Third Street, but Jefferson would remain open. We would have to close it on Washington Street, on both arms of it, so that they don't flow up through Third Street, but no, it would not affect any bus routes.
Thank you. Was there, Alder Rasmussen?
Thank you. This is something that I have to say, I think the Public Health and Safety Committee is pretty proud of. We came at this discussion to figure out what we can do to help our businesses that were hard hit by the pandemic get up and running again safely. And the first thing we had to work through is what we absolutely can't do, and then sort out the things that we absolutely could do. And we came with this plan. This costs us almost nothing. And, I mean, other than some effort to remove, a few bollards, to expand the outdoor seating, expand the premises, Wednesday night, allow people to have a Wednesday night event where they can dine in the street, still safe to do, but really find ways that the restaurants can expand their service area and not have people sitting on top of one another indoors. And we've allowed them to have that capability until the weather turns, which we think by Halloween it may be too cold to be out there, so 10/31 is the sunset. If we find that come spring, those businesses still need help, we would entertain a similar process next year. But we're going to try this for this summer, and I hope that we will support it unanimously because it is big help for our businesses that need big help. So, thank you.
Alder Watson?
After reading it, I thought it was an awesome proposal, awesome thing to do, so I appreciate the committee taking it up. And I also really appreciated, I just wanted to say how the approval process goes. It has that oversight as well. So if somebody gets denied, they have some kind of thing to go back to, so.
Thank you. Alder Ryan?
I like the idea, but I'd also like to see it extended to other businesses that are affected that aren't necessarily downtown, that they're just as hard hit. And I guess for myself, if I had a chance to be sitting outside instead of in a smaller place, I would rather be outside. So I'm hoping we can just extend this to other small businesses in Wausau.
Yeah, Alder Ryan, I think this is citywide, it's allowed, but I'll let Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. The committee's intent is that it would be available citywide, subject to staff approval of the permits and the expansions. So after the committee passed this, I believe the clerk's office was already contacted by Red Eye outside of that area and a few other restaurants. So if they want to reuse utilize their outdoor space differently, we have a process in place, and we actually encourage them through our media comments after the committee meeting that we want to help businesses all over the city. And so if there's some elsewhere that need the same help, they're welcome to apply.
Thank you. Alder Killian?
Great. Thank you.
Yes, I think this is a very positive endeavor, and it's in my district, and I'd encourage all my colleagues to support this. I think it helps support local businesses during a very tough time, and I would also echo Alder Ryan's comment that we just discussed with the last agenda item, how it may not have been fair and equitable to all of the businesses in town or residents. And I feel like it's time that we move forward as a body and make sure that policy is equitable. So if there are comparable requests in the future, and I think Alder Rasmussen just said it wouldn't be an issue, but I think this is something that should be possible all around the city if businesses choose to pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, we are all in alignment on that one, all of our Wausau businesses. Thank you. Is there any more discussion here? I think we're ready to vote.
Ryan?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Herbst? Watson?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
McElhaney?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0.
thank you very much. All right, next we have we'd like to suspend the rules, the rule being 6B, filing, and 12A, referral of resolutions. This requires a 2/3 vote. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules? Motion by Martin, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Walensky,
Aye.
McElhaney, Ryan,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Herbst,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to file number 200508. It's a resolution approving termination of cross easement and approving a construction easement with Thrive Properties LLC, 2105 North 2nd Street. Do I have a motion? Motion by Rasmussen. Second by McElhaney. Is there any discussion here? Doesn't look like it. I think we're ready to vote.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Herbst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Peckham,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
Aye.
Walensky,
Aye.
McElhaney. Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you very much. All right, last item on our agenda is public comment and suggestions. Is there anybody who would like to comment publicly? I think I have to ask this 3 times, or we have traditionally asked it 3 times. Anyone, public comment? Last time? All right, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I have a statement.
Oh, sure. Jim, Alder Wodinski.
I'd like to apologize to council for my tardiness. My intention was to appear remotely, but that failed greatly, so I decided to come on down.
Well, we're glad to see you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Any motion to adjourn? Motion by Herbst, second by Watson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.